Now this worksheet I'm giving you right here, I think if you look on the lesson plans, it's a different name, all right? We still have to do 2 worksheets before we get to that one that's on the, so it really doesn't make any difference to you. We're still doing a worksheet. So, but I think it's called like solving equations or something that's on the lesson plan thing. But this one, we got to do distributive property and one other one before we do what I had planned to do today. All right, so let's talk about distributive property. I'm just going to do this real basic thing. So if you have, oops, keep pushing that button on my pen. Let's try this again. Now, there's no numbers in here. We will do numbers in a second. But I want to show you what distributive property is. To distribute, to give, like if I was going to distribute food out to somebody, right? Everybody waits in line, I give it to the one person, I give it to the next person, I give it to the next person, okay? That's distributing. That's what distributive property basically means. I'm taking the A, and what I'm doing, what is that A doing to the stuff that's in the parentheses? There's no sign in between it, so what does that mean is happening? It's multiplication, okay? So it's being multiplied. So all the stuff in the parentheses is being separated by either a plus or a minus, all right? So when you have that situation, you're going to take that A and you're going to distribute it. You're going to multiply it by the first one, and then you're going to multiply it by the second one. And you could have more than just 2, okay? I just put 2 right here, okay? But you could have all that, you can have a whole bunch of things. That A is being multiplied by everything that's inside of there. So if I was to write this out right here, how do I write A times B? A times, just AB, just AB, all right? So I just write AB. That means A times B, correct? And then I take a look at the sign. The sign in this one is a plus. It's not always going to be a plus. It could be a minus, all right? But I take that plus and I put it down right here, and then I take the A and I multiply it by the next thing, which is a C. So what's my next part going to be? AC, all right? And that right there is the answer to this. It's not really an answer. We're just simplifying it. And that's what these problems tell you to do. We're simplifying. So that means if you can multiply something, then you multiply it. If you can add them, then you add them. What about the B plus C? I thought we always do the stuff inside the parentheses first. Why didn't we just do that first? Because we don't know what? We don't know the numbers. That's right. We don't know what B is. We don't know what C is, right? So can I add B and C? No, I can't. All right. So I can't do anything inside that parentheses. So the only thing I can do is take the A, which is being multiplied, and I can multiply it by that parentheses. So that's very general. Okay. That's the general formula, I guess, if you want to call it that, for the distributive property. Let's do some problems. Okay. Let's start off with number 1. And I'm doing right from the worksheet. So I've got a -6, and then I've got an A plus 8. So this is distributive property. How do I know it's distributive property? Because I have a number on the outside of a parentheses, and inside the parentheses I have stuff that's being added, and sometimes you could have subtraction too, okay? You could easily make this subtraction, but right now it's addition. Here's one thing that you can't do before we do this problem. Let's do this. What if I had like -3 times 5 times 4, okay? What if I had that? Do I take the -3 and distribute it times the 5 and the 4? Why not? What's different about this compared to this? Yeah, there's something different though. There's something, because these are still numbers, right? It's just I just don't know the numbers. Nah, the negative doesn't have anything to do with it. It's because it's times, exactly right, okay? Because it's being multiplied right here. There is no distributive property for multiplication. You hear me? Only if it's what? Addition. So let's stick with this problem. Let's put a plus in here. What if I said 5 plus 4? Now this is not the same as this, is it? All right. What if you wanted to figure out what the answer to that was? What would you do? I know what I would do. What would you do? I would go 5 plus 4. Okay. We just finished doing that, didn't we? We had a quiz on it. So I would go 5 plus 4 is what? 9 times -3, which is 9 times 3.
27.
Yes, and it's negative, so it's what? So it's -27. So the answer to that would be -27. Let me show you another way to do it. Now, in this particular problem right here, the distributive property is not the most efficient way to do it. It's not the best way to do it. right? But I'm going to show you anyway that you're going to get the same exact answer, okay? So let's look. So what would you do? If you're going to do distributive property on this, what would you do? Take that -3 and do what to it? Multiply it by the 5, and then you would take that -3 and do what? Multiply it by the 4. Everybody see that? That's distributive property before we get to this one. So let's do it. So I've got -3 times 5 plus what? No? -3 times 4. That's right. Everybody see that? So I took both of those things inside of there and I multiplied them both by -3. Now let's figure this out. What's that? Negative what? 15 plus what? -12. And if you add those up, same sign, you keep the sign, just add them up. What's that? 27. Same exact answer is if I went 5 plus 4 is 9 times -3 is 27. Would you agree? It was way easier doing it this way, just adding 5 plus 4, right? That's the way I would do it. I wouldn't do distributive property for something like this. But what I'm trying to show you is this. I'm trying to show you that the distributive property does work, all right? It works, doesn't it? You get the same exact thing. What about here? Why don't I just add the a plus the 8? Okay, right, because I don't know the value of a, right? I don't know what a is. So I can't add them up, can I? Now right here, 5 and 4, I know both those numbers, so I could add them up. On this one, I don't know the value of a. So I can't add up a plus 8. So what's the only thing that I can do then? Is do what? Give me the word. Distribute, okay? So I can distribute. I'm going to distribute the -6 through all this. So let's do it. It's -6 times a. How do I write -6 times a? Just what? Do I need to put a parentheses or anything like that? No, I just write -6 what? A. That's it. All right, now we're not done because we got to distribute this -6 through the 8. Now let's go ahead and do that. Put a plus, because you got a plus right here, and then you're going to go -6 times 8. Let's do that in our head. What's -6 times 8? What's 6 times 8? 6 times 8? Did you guys learn your multiplication tables? It's 48. And then this one's negative, this one's positive, so when they're different signs and you multiply, their answer is always what? Negative. Okay? It's 48. 6 times 8 is 48. That one rhymes, right? 6 8s are 48? Sure it does. So that would be perfectly fine like this. But if you were going to make it look a little bit nicer, a little bit simpler, this is how I'd write it. What's the same as plus a negative? It's just minus, okay? So plus -48 is the exact same thing as -48. This looks a little cleaner. This is the way when I read off the answers, this is the way I'm going to read it off. Okay, I'm not going to say -6a plus -48. I'm just going to say -6a minus 48. All right, so that's how we do that one. The number that's being multiplied doesn't always have to be on the left-hand side. Most of the time it is. All right, so most of the time when you see a parentheses and you have one number that's being multiplied by it, then it's usually on the left-hand side. But it's not always going to be. Let me show you an example where it's not. Let's do number 4. So this says 9m plus 10. It's in parentheses. And then they put a little dot and then a 2. The dot means what? Multiply, okay? So even though the 2 is on the right-hand side, we can still distribute. Now you got a couple options. If you really wanted to, you could put that 2 where? In front, okay? Yeah, over here like this. Everybody see that? You could put the 2 in front if you like that. That'd be perfectly fine. You could go 2 and then 9m plus 10. If you're more comfortable with the 2 being on the left-hand side, that's fine. No big deal. And then you can just do it like normal. So let's do this one now. So can you add up the 9m plus 10? Is that like 19m? No, it's not, because this doesn't have an m with it. So you can't add them up. They're not like terms. You've heard that before, haven't you? Okay, they're not, and I think we talked about it in here. They're not like terms. So all you can do is distribute. All right, so let's do that. 2 times 9m. This is a little different than we did before. So what's 2 times 9? 18. And then what do you put? You just put the m. All right? So it's 2 times 9 times m, which is 18m. That's how you multiply those together like that when you have a letter, when you have a variable. Plus, okay, because that sign is plus. Now you take that 2 and you multiply by the next number. That's easy. What's 2 times 10? It's 20. Can you add those up? 18 plus 20 is 38. Can you do that? Can you?
38.
Can you is the question. Can you make them 38?
No.
Why not? They're not like terms. This doesn't have an m. Okay, the only way you could add them up is if this had an m. If this is 18m and this was 20m, but it doesn't have an m. All right, so I can't add them up. So do not go 18 plus 20 is 38m. Don't do that, right? Because you can't add them up because they're not like terms. So you keep it just like that. That's all you can do. If you wanted to distribute with this being on the right-hand side, you could, but you get the same thing, wouldn't you? Watch. 2 times 9m is 18m. 2 times 10 is 20. It's the same exact thing. It's just on the right-hand side. That's the only thing different. Yes?
So by moving the 2 to the front,
Yeah, it's just because we read left to right, and everything we write is left to right. So it just makes a little more sense to have the 2 on the left, but it doesn't make any difference. Like, look at this. 3 times 5. Is that any different than 5 times 3? It's no different, is it? So is 9m plus 10 times 2 any different than 2 times 9m plus 10? Doesn't make any difference what order you multiply them, does it? Would you agree? Yeah. So it could be on the right, it could be on the left, doesn't make any difference. We're going to mostly see that number on the left, so I just put it on the left just to make it look a little bit more familiar to us. All right. Let me see. Let's do another one where it's actually on the left. Let's do 6. 6 looks like a good one. Yeah, we can do 7 after 6. So let's do 8 times negative b minus 4. I'll let you try that one. I'll give you 1 minute. Okay, ready? Go. 1 minute.
that's negative b.
It's negative b minus 4. So it's 8 on the outside, parentheses, negative b minus 4. Everybody should be trying this. Nigeria doesn't look like you're trying. Did you already write down the answer? Evan, you doing this? You already got it? Evan, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Buttinger or Buttinger? Buttinger, is that how you say it? Okay. Because Mr. Barry announced your game, and he said Buttinger, but I told him later, I said, I think his name's Buttinger. She said, no, I asked beforehand. I'm like, okay, I'll ask him sometime. And I always forget to ask you. So he was saying it right. All right, so minute up. Yep, minute's up. All right, so what'd you do? You took that 8 and you did what? Give me the math word that we learned today. What? Distribute. Right. So we distributed through here, and then we distributed through here. Okay? What is this? It's 8 times what? Negative b. It's negative 8b. That's how we write it. We put the negative out in front. So don't put 8 minus b. Everybody hear me? 8 minus b is a lot different than 8 times negative b. All right? So you got to put the negative 8 and then the b. Everybody see that? That was the tricky part of this. And then you put a minus down. Okay, on the other ones, we always had a plus. This time we do have a minus. And then you go 8 times 4. What's 8 times 4? 32. And that's it. That's all you can do. You can't add up negative 8 and negative 32. Why not? Because they're not what? Like terms. Okay, so you leave it like that. Yeah, it's pretty simple, isn't it? Let's look at number 7. 7 looks a little weirder, but it's really no different. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do 5 instead. 5 is harder. Well, I don't know if it's harder. It just looks a little different. Now, what's really important is the fact that they put that little dot right there. If you didn't see that dot, it might look like it's this minus 8, but it's not. There's a dot there. So that means it's what? It's times. Or if you wanted to, you could just put a parenthesis. That means the same exact thing. All right, it means the negative 8 is being multiplied. Now, you could just distribute like this, but if it was me, I just think it looks a little bit more common, I guess, to write it like that. You don't have to do this, but I think that looks a little bit nicer. I'm just so used to seeing that thing on the left-hand side, that number on the left-hand side. It just looks a lot nicer to me like that. Would you agree? Right. If you like it on the right, it's perfectly fine, no big deal. You could still get this to work. So now we distribute. So this times this times this. It's negative. Now you got to know that rule that we just went over with that multiplying and dividing. What's negative 8 times negative 4? It's positive 32. That's a positive. Again, it's not negative 8 minus 4, is it? What are you doing? You're multiplying. So you got to understand that this is multiplication. I've seen it over and over again. That's why I keep harping on this. That when I say, don't do this, don't do that, you know why I say that? Because I've seen other kids do it. All right? And I'm trying to get you to not make the same mistake that the other kids in the past did. John, you had a question? Okay. Now, what do? You got a minus, so put a minus. And now it's negative 8 times 3n. What's negative 8 times 3? Is it? Negative 8 times 3? Negative 24. It's negative 24. And then what's the letter? It's just an n. I guess you could keep it like this, but I would not keep it like that. What happens when you minus a negative? Right, add the opposite, turns into plus. So if you wanted to write it as nice as possible, this is how we would write it. And that's how I would read it off to you. Okay, so if I read off these answers, this is how I would read it. I would say 32 plus 24n. All right? All right, let's flip the page. They got to be harder than this, right? Well, it doesn't look like they are. It looks like they're all the same exact kind of problems. All right, almost hate to do this, but you got about 14 minutes left in this class. What I want you to do, listen to me. This is not study hall. This is not a time to put your head down. This is not a time to stand up. This is not a time to goof around. I'm giving you about 13 or 14 minutes, and I want you to get as many of these problems finished as possible in class. We've tried this before with you working in class. It didn't work out that great. All right, I'm going to give you another shot at this. This way, if you can get it done in class, then you don't have to do it for homework and you don't have to worry about it. All right, then you got it done. All right, are you going to be able to handle working in class on your own? All right, let's give it a shot. So take the rest of the time and work on this. Try to get it finished before class is over.